Hello, everyone. Welcome to Live at Epiphan. It has been 2 weeks since we were here last Thursday. You'll always find us here every other Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern. And we generally talk about all things live production. And today we're going to be talking about live music, but done virtually. So I don't know if there's any musicians out there watching. I'm a musician myself, and we have a lot of other musicians at our company, Epiphan Video. And ever since the pandemic started, we've been wondering, like, how are we going to make music together? So we've tried a few things that have kind of worked in the past, and one of the challenges is the latency issue. So when I play music, you hear it a second later, and so it's really hard to make music that way. So we wanted to speak with someone who has a new way of doing that. So we found somebody who has a new app called Pajam. And you might have seen it a little bit at the beginning of the show where we had been working on it. It is a virtual jamming software. So Luke Palmer is going to join us. Luke is in California, and he works for Sound Radix.
No, you got the location wrong.
Did I get the name wrong, Luke?
I'm in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Oh, where are you? Where are you? Oh, okay, that's great.
Right.
That's a better place for a music app to come from, I would say. Well, anyway, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us. We're really curious about this. Like, tell us, what is Pajam?
It's a way for musicians to jam online with each other in a way using a clever trick to get around the essential latency problems.
I like that. Okay, so, what's the
it's really just to use loops.
I mean,
if you use loops,
okay.
So the idea was, if you're playing with a loop, then you can. So if I'm playing with something that you've already looped, I can like rhythmically lock in with you, because I know where your time is, right? The loop is sort of showing me where the time and the feel is, and then. If there's a lot of latency, it's okay. I can just send out my entire synchronized loop to you, and it will be synchronized with your loop, and then we'll have a loop together. And it's as if there's no latency in the micro sense. Like in the like microbeat sense, you can lock in exactly rhythmically, and that's like where like groove comes from. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to explain. Like we did it, and I know what you're talking about. We'll do a little demo at the end of the show today where we'll actually pull out some instruments and we'll try a demo, and maybe that way people can understand the whole latency conundrum thing. But the short of it is it kind of fixes the latency.
That's the way it feels.
I got that right? Yeah, okay. So how did you, where did this app come from?
I mean, it's a child of the pandemic. I was in between apartments, staying out at this little cabin on the bayou and working. And I don't know, I think something in the air just jumped into my brain like, dude, use loops and it'll fix it. You can do it.
Yeah. That's so then, and then what happens? So you get this idea for
I'm a software engineer.
How do you get it made?
So I was working on another product for Sound Radix, my company. And I just, in the company chat, I just said like, hey, musicians, maybe people in the pandemic would like to jam with each other. And like, if we use loops, we can overcome the latency problem. And the president of the company, Nir, was like, sounds great. Like, yes.
Go make it.
Are we having network?
I lost your audio there.
Problems?
I don't know. There we go.
I'm going to stop broadcasting on, just because I think I'm pushing my computer really hard.
Today is an interesting day for the Live at Epiphan show. We have a lot going on here in terms of networking stuff. So we have this Pajam app running where we're sending audio back and forth. We have SRT streams happening. Like I have a Pearl in my studio here where I'm sending a stream, and we're speaking on Zoom at the same time.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of communications going on. So hopefully we get through this one alive. It sounds like your audio's back, Luke, which is great. Yeah, so you were telling us how you end up
so my company's
Pajam.
my president was just like, yeah, sounds like a cool idea, which is the most supportive a president has or a superior has ever been of one of my ideas. And so I got all inspired, and I just like, all right. And I spent the next 2 weeks just like hacking up a quick little prototype to just like a proof of concept, terrible looking UI and all that stuff, but a proof of concept.
Sure.
And
it's a proof of concept, but it doesn't look like that now.
Thanks to the rest of my team.
It looks great. Yeah. Okay, well, kudos to you and to them then. Why don't you give us a little tour and see if you can explain to our audience how it works and maybe how they might use it.
Do screen share thing? Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so this is Pajam, the main UI, and I've already joined a room here. It's like
the room is like a
session.
Think of it like
Zoom. You get into the
before.
same room and then you're playing together.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's also and so I can. So we'll talk about the technicalities later. One of the things is you need a tempo. You need to be playing in the same tempo with each other, and so we use a tap tempo. Like I can tap a tempo like that, and it gives me a loop to play with. And so I can lay down like a basic loop to just get things started. Like, oops, I missed the space bar.
Okay. So now is this music coming through the broadcast? Maybe our producer Cameron can.
Okay, it should be.
I can't hear it in my ears, but I don't know. It should be. Okay, cool. Great. So Luke's playing this little loop of 2 bars here. So now we'll demo the full thing later, where I'm going to jump in and grab a guitar and jam. But what's happening there aside from this loop
going,
bars?
And sort of that to me that sort of indicates the rhythmic feel of the jam to everybody. And you can do anything like a little percussion or whatever. Yeah. But at this point, other people in the jam would start adding loops to this. They'd have their own idea, and they'd add like a guitar or like more percussion or whatever, just so we sort of fill out the texture of what's going on. And loops can be of different lengths. I have a 2-bar loop, but you can set it to 16 bars if you have a big chord progression or whatever. And then once you have a texture going, I usually spend a lot of time developing a texture because I really like textures. But then we have a texture going, and then once that's going, you have the rhythmic feel, and you can start essentially streaming. So for example, let's pretend that this is like a bunch of people playing now. And I can just start.
Yeah.
I just start playing.
Yeah. So you layer upon layer upon layer these tracks. So it's funny, it's a little different from, it's not the kind of thing where you're going to go like a verse, chorus, verse. For the most part, you're basically just, you're working on one section of a song at a time. And you're looping that for ad infinitum, which is, often when you go and jam with people, you end up doing that. You've got, 4 bars.
Right,
and you're like, let's do this for 22 minutes.
That's jamming.
While I figure a bunch of stuff out.
Yeah, so it's not, right, and I
so it's a pure jamming
this sort of exploratory free jazz tradition. I did that a bunch in California, and I do that here, and so that's, I was sort of guided by that. I think that there's a lot that you can do I think that's a really interesting and diverse space to play in.
It's true. You don't need very much to go on, and you can, the infinite number of
and you take something out, and then you pivot, and you can sort of reinterpret things, and to me that's
it's a little bit like you're kind of sound engineering as well as jamming at the same time, right? Because the way you can sort of mix and match all the pieces when you put them together. Now, when I looked at the app, I noticed right away there's a metronome, so I can kind of hear what's going on in my ear. I found that pretty important. And then the rest is more or less just basic audio routing stuff, like my inputs, my outputs.
And the metronome, we'll talk about other inspirations or other apps, but one of my motivations for the design is I don't want to be playing to a metronome the whole time. I find playing to a metronome very annoying. So the metronome, you can turn it off. It's there as a guide. To me, it's there as a guide for like the first 1 or 2 loops. So you're like, okay. And then once you have the feel, once you have the loop guiding how the rhythmic feel is, you turn off the metronome and you can just play with the other musicians.
We have a diagram that kind of shows how this works. I don't know if it's already put up yet, but how you can kind of record the first couple of bars. There we go. So in this case, like I would record the first 2 bars, play over it, and then Steven, who's going to join us later for a little jam, he would hear it and he can start layering onto it. And actually, no, I have it backwards. Luke is doing it, and then Steven, and then George. So we all kind of play on top of the same track. Anyway, looks a bit complicated in a diagram, but
yeah, it's really when I first started playing with it, I was super in my head about it. I'm like, okay, if I play now, they're going to be hearing this then, and then they're doing that, and so I have to. It
hurts your head to think about understanding it. Yeah,
exactly. It works really well if you just turn it off and pretend you're just playing. It's surprising. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the challenge of being a software engineer and a musician at the same time. Is you're trying to, look behind the curtain all the time, right? So, anyway, it's great. We had a good time on it the other night when we put something together, and we'll see if we can make the same magic in a little bit when our friend Steven, one of our colleagues, is going to join us. So you can also live stream from this app. Is that right?
It is technically possible. Well, I do it every. I do it every Wednesday. I host an open jam that's like open to anybody who wants to join, and I live stream that to YouTube and Twitch. Yeah. Yes. So, it's a little bit of a hack still. Like I have a little. Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a beta feature.
I have it hosted on a server on Amazon. So it's listening to the jam, and I'm live streaming from there because my connection isn't good enough at home. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
But that's part of the roadmap, I'm guessing, for this.
And probably that's pretty high on our priority list too. So, yeah.
Okay. So speaking of the roadmap, where is this software at? Like, I think
it's beta. It's open beta, and so it's available to the world to try it. And I think it's really fun, and it's like. It's definitely usable and fun and interesting. We just don't promise that it doesn't have any problems because it does have a couple, but they're not showstoppers. Yeah.
Listen, it's beta software. That's cool. How does it compare to other tools out there? Like we've talked about, JamKazam, and they all have ridiculous names that involve the word jam. It's like we're in an early phase of musical collaboration, requires people to use the word jam in their name, I think, because they're all in there. Ninja Jam, Sofa Jam. What's the difference between
it's
Pajam
so JamKazam is a whole different approach. Like JamKazam is focusing on getting latency as small as possible, so that you feel like you're in the same room with other people. I don't find that very interesting because of the speed of light. My best friend lives in. Come on.
You're disappointed at the speed of light. I get
it. Yeah.
Come on, light. Yeah, it hurts. Well, it's funny. Even in a real room, when your timing is off in music, the subtlest bit of timing is off, you stare down.
Yeah, it's just it's not gelling. Why isn't it gelling? We're all playing the same thing, but it's not. You can't feel it.
Yeah.
And my best friend who I love to play with is in California, and so if we had a laser beam and we could just shine a beam of light between us, there would still be a 30 millisecond round trip latency, which is it's gonna be painful to play with that much latency. You can kind of do it, but you're never gonna get on the same page,
Yeah. So does Pajam have latency then? If it's because of the record and playback nature, would you say it's zero latency?
Hang on, something just happened in my computer. Okay. It has, so the trick essentially is to increase the latency to a musically relevant amount of latency. So instead of 30 milliseconds of latency, you get 2 bars of latency. And that's the same strategy as Ninjam takes. And so that means that in terms of groove, in terms of like locking in with the same feel, it's as if there is no latency. There's like less latency than playing in the same room with people because of the speed of sound. But in terms of like in exchange, you can't coordinate as much.
You're always you're 2 bars behind everybody.
Yeah, so you can't do complex song forms with a bridge and like all that. So that's the trade-off. And as an exploratory free jazz kind of person, it's I'm willing to take that trade-off.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, we'll get to play with it later and show people what that looks like. Okay, we talked about live streaming jams. You talked about the other kinds of jams.
Oh yeah, so I wanted. Well, you asked me about comparisons to other things. I mentioned Ninjam briefly. So Ninjam takes the same approach as us as to increasing the latency to a musically relevant amount, but it's. Pajam does a lot. It's. I mean, when I invented it, I didn't know about Ninjam. But it's sort of like taking it to the next level. Like we add video and also adding loops of different lengths really adds a lot to the music. Like it really makes it a lot more dynamic and
totally, yeah. And you can I can like just mute that quickly. So I like that feature to be able, because you end up kind of layering all these loops on top.
Yeah, that was a big motivate. Like I met you guys through my improv comedy community. I'm a big improv fan. And so to me, it's very important that we all have like shared ownership of the art. Like it's not like you are playing for you and I'm playing for me and whatever. It's like if I've had enough of this loop, I'm just going to trust that everyone has had enough of this loop. And so we're creating this. So I let you sort of play with other people's tracks.
Yeah, you're right. There's very little ownership when you get in here, which is nice. Where do people find Pajam?
Pajam, like on the internet, Pajam.
Yeah.
Pajam.
I don't mean like in a trunk or by the side of the road. Like, how do people get Pajam?
Well, we are going to ship to the side of the road pretty soon. But for now, you can go to pajam.live.
Awesome.
And it's just a download link, and you download it.
And it's totally free.
Totally free.
That's fantastic.
And we intend to keep it free unless you want to like do very fancy things, like have multi-track recordings that you can then tweak after the fact.
Sure. Yeah. You'll figure that, how to make money from this eventually. But I'm guessing you just want people to use it at this point.
Yeah.
There's some Wednesday Freedom Jams. That might be kind of neat for people to see, the best of the Pajammers, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm having a great time. I've been doing them for a little more than a month now, maybe a month and a half, every Wednesday. It started with me and Max. So my friend Max sort of jammed with me weekly throughout the Pajam development process, so he's seen the whole thing. But anyway, we started hosting these open jams, and now there are like 4 people that showed up to the last one. It's really fun.
Cool.
Really fun with more people. Like there's just like so much to work with.
Totally.
I'm especially this most recent one. I'm really happy with. I'm like, what? This is like music that I like. How did that happen?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you're doing it all from your homes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for trying to crack this nut. I know I'm excited about it, and I'm sure every other musician is like, oh, good. We've been kind of waiting for this.
Yeah, I hope so. I think it's really cool. I think one of the challenges we're having is it's like hard, as we've seen here, it's hard to explain like what it's loops and delay.
It's almost better to just not explain it and say, here, go do this jam.
Just go do it, check it out. Yeah, you'll get it.
Yeah, I tried to think too hard about it, and it hurt.
That's how everybody starts. And I'm friends in New Orleans. This city is amazing. I'm friends with some very good musicians and like practice with them, and they're all like thinking so hard at the beginning. Like, stop it, guys.
So let's talk about what we're going to do now. We're going to do a little bit of a demo, and it's pretty straightforward for most people, they just both log on to they get a Pajam app and they sign in and they start making music. In our case, it's a little different because we're also trying to live stream this like over SRT, and we're having a Zoom call at the same time. So we've got a little added complexity here. So there's a little diagram that I think shows this well. But for the most part, you and I are going to get our instruments and try to make this work. And we're going to be joined by our friend Steven, who's going to join us too. So, the next part of the show is going to be a little bit more exploratory because we're going to be trying to figure this out. So we did want to let you know that, we're here every 2 weeks. We're here every other Thursday at 3 o'clock. So make sure you come back then and watch us again now, because we're going to be jamming for a while here and we're not going to be doing a whole lot more talking. Because we're going to get lost in the world of music for a little bit. So thanks to everybody who has watched so far. I hope you enjoy the jam that's going to come up. And don't forget to follow us on all the socials and go look for pajam.live and try it out and let us know what you think. So, Luke, what do you think? Should we give it a go?
Yeah, let's play.
Okay. All right. We'll try this. I got to turn up my volume on my Pajam. We're going to get Steven, who's going to come join us. So the first thing you're going to see here is Luke's. Like, one thing you can notice is there's a camera feed like on each of the little loops. So that's Luke of yesteryear up in the top left corner of the Pajam app. But you're going to see some new Lukes. This is a bit Inception-y.
A brand new Luke.
For some brand new Lukes. Now, I don't think my camera's working right now for Pajam, so you'll only see a whole lot of Luke. But we'll get Steven in here too. So while you're doing this sort of first track, I can't hear the first track. How come? Oh, there we go. Yeah. Beauty. So, let me get my guitar. we are going to, maybe we'll just keep jamming for a long time, but we're going to wrap the show here. So thanks everybody for watching. Luke, thanks for doing everything you're doing here. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, that's sweet. Okay, see you later everybody. See you in a couple of weeks.